you know, I've seen the writing on the wall for a few months, but now it's bleak. You know, it's coming to the holidays and things really slow down here on the island, and I think a lot of us are going to be hit a little bit harder than.
What do you need? What do we need to see happen to?
For me,
Yeah.
some financial help to get me through the winter months would be great, but maybe an investor, someone who's willing to be a partner or be a owner, you know, with deep pockets. But that's not me. I put my, you know, my life on the line, my family's life on the line here with mortgages and money out. But the question was, to me, the newspaper's question was, what's the bailout going to do for a small dealership? And basically, it's almost too late for the small dealerships. And there's large dealerships that have closed their doors. You know, there's guys that have multi-franchises that just last week just said, yeah, I can't do anything right now. The credit crunch was that tough on the big dealers. You know, that the guys who, like me, they had a lot of money invested in a brand new dealership, but in you know, multiply that by 10. You know, guys who have like the Route 1 people that own all those. I mean, it didn't hurt Ernie Bach Jr., I don't think, but he's basically saying he's giving cars away. And you know, you can't really do that unless you have a lot of money in the bank already. But you can get lots of traffic into your dealership and take it away from the small dealership who can't afford to advertise that heavily. You know, saying we're giving cars away here. It's just, I'm not saying we're closing down today, but
I understand.
I think we've cut back a lot of guys who were working overtime. I've cut their overtime down to a minimum. I've cut people who can afford to be part-time down to part-time, and cut back other guys' hours from 40 maybe to 32, 30, you know, or that area. I just, even my inspection station is slow, and I was just down there talking to my men down there that we might have to do something about rotating their hours, you know. And we've seen a lot of contractors who don't have work, and that's where my eyes are open on the building trade. Sure. That's carried everybody on the island for years. And talking to a couple of restaurant owners, they see the crunch. There's no contractors coming in to have lunch, dinner, maybe, you know, maybe some people are coming out for dinner still, but a lot
losing a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, and I'm just reading the paper as well that, you know, of course I made the front page news, but not by choice, but you know, the paper needs a story, and if I'm the story this week, hopefully it's not somebody else next week. But there's a lot to this island that we'll see if it comes around right away.
How do you think, and I mean, I would guess, but do you think that part of the problem is like the way Ford has, the direction that they chose to go in the design and the size of the cars and
I don't
the
think
fuel economy? And
no, because being a Ford person and knowing what Ford has done to change is not the problem. They are a very aggressive, proactive company. I don't. And
they're actually the best one out of the three.
They're doing well.
Yeah.
They're more stable than GM. GM is huge, and now when you get huge problems, you multiply the problems. Ford's been cutting things off. They're like I've been doing, cutting back on expenses, and their production of cars. They're for a domestic company, they're very environmentally minded, and that's why you don't see a lot of the hybrids right now, because the hybrids, believe it or not, aren't easy to get because the technology is in Japan and everything's manufactured in China. So if you look worldwide at Ford's vehicles, they've got some very economical vehicles. It's just not meeting EPA standards here in the US. And the smart car made it, you know, made the standards, but I'm sure that costs that company, I believe it's BMW, a lot of, no, it might be Mercedes, a lot of money to get those vehicles built and shipped to the U.S. And to build those cars in the U.S. would be the best thing for the country, and I think that's a lot to do with it. We don't build enough in our own country. But Ford's coming out with a couple vehicles in the next year or two that will maybe not exceed that fuel economy, but try to match it. But the other thing Ford's done is they've cut down on their number of models, and just going to, you know, this one, that one, a crossover, an SUV, maybe they have 3 SUVs versus maybe 20 that could be out there with GM. Selling out their Mazda shares, which was a good move. They got some cash. Volvo is still with them. You've got.
Are they okay in Europe? Or are they still,
I
they're
don't
hurting
know.
there too?
Well, they're hurt. I think South America might be the strength,
Oh, I see.
and Europe. They still do well in Europe,
Yeah.
but again, the U.S. dragging them down. But manufacturing, and meeting the needs of our American workers who will need jobs.
That's right.
So I think that the biggest problem is we need to start, as a country, start manufacturing more and going back to being a blue collar, mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody went to.
We got to think of the little guy instead
we
of
can't
the
all
big
be
guy,
executives in this
and making the
country.
money off the little guys that
Right.
are in some other country.
Right.
I agree.
We need to, and I think the government is actually, first time I could say this in a long time, they are working for our country and focusing on it. Again, just like maybe a lot of us businessmen, a little too late, but we're all on the same page, and we're all saying, okay, enough's enough. We got to start figuring out where we can, and we can't lay off everybody in the country. Unemployment's not good for this country.
No.
But staggering hours, cutting back on what we're paying.
Right. Learning to be a little
our
more
fuel
leaner,
prices coming down.
not putting everything on credit.
Right. Well,
which obviously
that's hurt us
you got
a
to
lot.
have some credit, but obviously,
Yeah. Well,
not everything.
I'm not a good example of that right now because
Well,
that's the route I had to take.
But you
to get
did it
to
for
where
a business, not for.
Yeah. Not with the hope of having to sell it.
Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't my dream. But
No.
once we were done, I was like, okay, I am over my head now, and hopefully the economy will kick in and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
That was, one of the spreadsheets I did was everything in a perfect world, and I did everything goes way down.
Right.
Well, my spreadsheets never went this far down, so.
Well, hopefully it'll be back up, and you'll be around for
Well,
many
we'll be
more
here.
years.
We'll be here. Just how I structure it and how I work it out is up to us.